Hi everyone, Ed Bixby here from the Global Green Burial Alliance, and this is Spotlight Now. Today I'm here with Amanda Peckman of Kings Mountain Preserve. Amanda serves as the director of Kings Mountain Preserve, a conservation green cemetery. Amanda's friends would describe her as a lifelong learner, an empathetic conversationalist, and a passionate advocate. She lives and loves in North Carolina with her husband and their three children. You can find Amanda outside playing with her kids, gardening, and hiking. You may also find her inside hosting community gatherings, developing a new recipe, or in deep conversation, either with people or through reading a book. She is an authentic individual driven by her faith and love. She became interested in all things green burial when she saw how much her love for people and nature intersected in the practices found within conservation burial. Death has always been a prominent presence in her life. Experiencing the mark of grief on her family from a young age has made her sensitive to the fragility of life. So, welcome, Amanda.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely, it's our pleasure, and we're glad to be able to talk to you, so that our viewers and our community can learn a little bit about what you're doing there at Kings Mountain. So, why don't you tell us a little bit about how Kings Mountain Preserve came to be?
So the whole story of that is really interesting and happened a lot before I joined the team at Kings Mountain Preserve. And the preserve is owned by Terry and Amanda Robertson. And he's been in the funeral industry for decades at this point. And a while back, and I might get some of the details wrong. He's the best person to give his story, of course. But he was diagnosed with a rare form of sarcoma of the neck from his exposure to the chemicals from embalming. And that got him interested in looking at green burial. I know that there's a whole timeline. I'm foggy on the details. That was before I met them. But he like hiked Denali in Alaska after going into remission. Like it's pretty amazing what he's accomplished. He found this property. It's 56 acres. It's right over the line, so we serve both North and South Carolina. And the property is really it's just really perfect. It's got a creek that runs through it. And I think from what he talks about, and I can see it when I'm there, it's like it's a property you fall in love with immediately. Like the land just sings because there's the creek, the elevation that's kind of the creek goes halfway, and then there's like two kind of sloping areas that go off of the creek, and where our burials are kind of at the top of those sloping areas and kind of going down in levels. We don't do any burial, of course, 75 feet from the creek to protect the embankment. So it's just a really beautiful space. It was a hunting lodge area, so it has a cabin on the property. And that's something that I think is really unique about what we have is it's this beautiful cabin. It sleeps six people. It has an outdoor fireplace and an indoor fireplace. So that was already there. He built like a pavilion and a forest chapel and other outside outdoor facilities for services. But just what was there was so well cultivated and protected already. And then like it's like he took up the mantle of stewardship for the place. So it's kind of had a stewarding presence for a really long time, even before green burials were taking place there, which is cool.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds absolutely beautiful. And for any of the viewers who haven't been to, North or South Carolina, do yourself a favor and visit. They're both beautiful states, in
Yeah.
particular the mountains. I mean, absolutely gorgeous. And you've done a pretty good a job of painting a picture of the property. So if a family were to visit,
Mhm.
initially, what would they expect when they were to arrive? So, do you have a welcoming area, or how does that look?
Yeah. So when families arrive, it is like out in the country. So, it's like a normal country drive. You're driving on the road. I grew up in the country in Tennessee, so it every time I go to work, I feel like I'm going home. Like it's just so sweet to drive there. But you go down the road and it's just a little driveway. We have a farm gate that we open up. So our, people who are interested in visiting the preserve, they'll go through the farm gate, go down a large driveway. There's a big parking lot so that we can accommodate about 100 cars total in our parking lot. Um, and then they would just keep going down. We have a little driveway that goes down to our cabin. And then there's an area where I always meet families if they're coming to the preserve for the first time for a tour or to learn about it or for an event. There's an outdoor pavilion that has restrooms there and ceiling fans in the pavilion, and it's got like a podium, and it opens up into where our cremation, one of our cremation areas is. It's like a really pretty tree, like we've intentionally planted some trees in that area. It's a little bit of an open space, and we have work sheds and stuff, of course, there because it's also we're doing conservation work, so it's also a workstation. So families will find that and they'll just see, I mean, gosh, I would say it's not old growth forest because it has signs of having timber, people were timbering on it, all of that kind of stuff, but it is a mature growth forest. So it's on its way to being an old growth forest. So give it another 100 years and it'll be that, which is great. So they'll see big tulip poplars, big oaks, a sourwood, which is really cool to see. So, like sourwood is something that doesn't usually get big, but we have some nice larger sourwoods that their diameter is fairly large. So that's really cool to see as well.
No, it sounds absolutely beautiful. And I mean, like you had mentioned, with it will be an old growth forest. It's on its way, and
Mhm.
with the conservation aspect of it, it's
Mhm.
guaranteed to get there. So I think that's a
Absolutely.
a
Hmm.
wonderful aspect of what you're doing. And when a family would come to Kings Mountain, you know, what would the experience and process for the funeral look like? I mean, what would they
Yeah.
expect? So if you could paint a picture for the viewers as to if they were to bring a loved one there, what's the process?
Yeah, that's a really good question. The first thing I think about with that is I always tell families, and I help a lot of families plan the services. That's part of I'm the director, so I kind of do all the little things like that. And I do find it is a great privilege as part of my job to do that. Um, the first thing I tell people is that green burial really allows you a blank canvas when it comes to bringing yourself into the planning of the service space. So there are things that you can always expect. Our grave diggers dig the grave by hand, and we also close it by hand. So that's something that every family who's having a burial there can expect that. Um, we use a simple engraved stone on every spot. And so all the families can expect for that stone. It's kind of everybody's spot is going to look the same when it comes to those elements. We plant a Christmas fern on top of every mound after the burial is complete. So those elements are the same. But then as far as like what families bring to it, they really get to bring their personalities into it. Um, some families like really simple services where it's just intimate, it's just the family will go out into the woods together. Everybody has to wear hiking boots or shoes, something that's comfortable, because we'll be walking fairly for a lot of those, especially intimate services. They want to be out in the woods. And we'll have a team helping that day, but the family can help lower their loved one into the ground. They can help cover. A lot of times families will bring plants that are part of our approved plant list that's from Upstate Forever, who's the land trust company we're partnered with. And they will plant as part of that burial, plant those plants into the mound that covers. And that's always really beautiful. I will mention two things that stand out to me, what people have done. Actually, three, sorry. I just love to see what our families have done when they come out. One family did a thing where they took string and they strung string up to the graveside and just on the trees, and then they hung pictures up as you walk the trail. It was like they started at the the man's like baby pictures and then ended with the most recent pictures that were taken of him, and that was really beautiful for them to do that. And recently we had a burial where the woman had hand knitted her own shroud out of cotton yarn. And that was really meaningful because she knew that this was something that was going to be happening soon for her, and she took the time and the care to kind of care for herself in that way, and that was a beautiful thing. And we also have people, because we have this covered pavilion, we have banquet tables We often have families when it's warm enough out, will want to do meals at the preserve as part of like doing a reception after. And so we'll set up the tables and we have tablecloths and they'll have one of them that was really special. Her family, she was vegan and she had all these different favorite foods, and her family had someone they knew make this huge, so delicious meal. Like it was an amazing meal to have after, the work day of having a service. And it was like beans and rice and all these different types of salsas. And people stay after a burial at the preserve for quite a long time because of that cultivation of space that we have. So people will linger. People will linger to hike. They will linger to stay. We have the cabin that sleeps 6 people. Often families will linger in that cabin. We had a family tell us that they brought instruments and just played instruments on the porch of the cabin late into the night. And then the next morning they got up and visited the grave again as part of, saying goodbye. So I really like it's so diverse. So it's hard to answer that question in just a sound bite. It's just such a diverse response to, I mean, it's like if you took a bunch of artists, I think humans were all artists at heart, and you take a bunch of artists and you give them a piece of paper and you say, draw what you love and what you remember. And they all paint really beautiful pictures. So it's cool.
Well, you did a wonderful job, painting that picture for our viewers because that's what's most important for them to understand the meaning, and the celebration that, is involved. And,
Mm-hmm.
for what would be a grief-stricken, somber event, celebrating a life that was lived and really leaving there,
Mm-hmm.
I feel changed, and I'm sure you've experienced that, being
Mm-hmm.
far less fearful of death, appreciating life far more. And, you express, when you were talking about that little chain through the string with the photographs,
Mm-hmm.
what an interesting and lovely way to commemorate, and remember somebody and know that they, that's what they wanted, and you can appreciate that. So,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
no, that's wonderful. And I mean, when these things, occur, we always have people who probably have not experienced it. And,
Yes.
what type of reactions have you seen, or been given when they typically visit the preserve for the first time? People who maybe aren't seeking this out, but, come and
Mhm.
experience the event.
Yes, that's yeah. It's almost all overwhelming. People tell us, I wish I knew about this 2 years ago, or I wish I knew about this 5 years. I mean, it's so common. And that's one of the reasons why community outreach is so important to me, because I am told that so much. Like, wow, this is amazing. I'd never heard of this, or I didn't know that this was possible. Or, and you've probably heard this a lot too, I didn't know this was legal. So many people say that. And it's really amazing to see that response. And something too that I've noticed, and it's not something that people say, but it's something that I feel from them, is I think that the presence of trees and like just the all-encompassing being held feeling that you feel when you're in nature, it changes people where they feel a sense of safety that they might not always be used to when attending burials. Because I think about even myself, like the contrast of standing out in like a memorial garden area where it's just there's no trees, there's like plastic flowers everywhere. You feel almost like you're um on display, like you're the highest point in the whole acreage, right? Like you're standing there and there's nothing higher or bigger than you. And I've seen people respond in ways where they are celebrating the like celebration of life kind of thing, but also seen people really lean into expressing their grief in a way that I've not seen in a conventional funeral setting. um and, I think that has been so powerful to notice that the presence of trees and nature and that feeling of safety that is cultivated by that has, I've seen people drop down on their knees and cry out, and everyone around them responding in a way that feels natural and not forced, and just kind of like moving along and listening to each other, being in tuned to what the family needs and what friends need, like what is needed in that. And that's a really powerful thing too, that I don't know if anyone's ever spoken about that to me, but I can feel it every time people are experiencing a funeral there. Hmm.
Absolutely. And I find it interesting, some of the things that you had said, and this is good for the viewers to hear, is that, no matter where you're from, you can be from the city, you can be born in the city and live in the city until the day you die. But, as human beings, we all have a relationship, a connection to nature, even if you
Yes,
don't know that you have it. And I've seen it many times,
absolutely.
like you have experienced, when people come from those landscapes to a landscape like that, it's instinctual.
Hmm.
It feels
Hmm.
right. It's because it's who we are.
Yes,
So
absolutely.
I appreciate you bringing that up, because that's something that probably hasn't been said in many of the spotlights is, the
Mm-hmm.
connection to nature that we as human beings have. And,
Mm-hmm.
you being the community director, what would you say some of the main reasons families are drawn to your space and services? What what
Mm-hmm.
what seems to be the determining factor? Is it cost? Is it a final expression, or is it a
Mm-hmm.
combination of all of that?
I think it is a combination. I think cost is something that people are more aware of right now. And I mean, that's just across the board with green burial sites, right? Is that it's like less than half the cost. Am I right on that? I think you probably know better
Yeah.
than I do if that's, but I think cost is helpful for people. But I find that the biggest driver really is that sense of, I want to do something that feels meaningful to me. Whether it's you're planning your own funeral and you're like, I want to pick a place to be buried that feels right for me, or if you're looking for a place for a loved one, it's like, I want to find a place that feels like them. I hear that so often with grieving families. They'll be out there and they're like, wow, this was so them. Like this is exactly what she or he would have loved. And that is really powerful to see that and to experience that. That's really what drives people, is that personal connection. And I think in my area, I live in the Charlotte area. That's kind of the general area we serve, is like all that whole region. There is a sense of people who come from the city of Charlotte, and they're like, whoo, this feels like a like peace. I like this is so quiet. I've not been in such a quiet place in a long time. And it's so interesting how nature draws us into relationship even when you're not used to it. Like you're saying, like you might not realize that you're in that, but like as soon as you step out into it, it's like wow. And there are some times where we do I love to kind of help people become comfortable with elements of nature that they maybe, if we have a snake crossing by, sometimes people will get really freaked out about that. And just kind of showing like, this is, his home and we're visiting, and that kind of thing. And we share this space with the snakes and the turtles and, all of the birds that are present. And we're doing more events where we had a speaker come out and talk about bird calls and bird song and the difference. And we had people, we had past families and all kinds of people come out for that and to learn about that, because they recognize we want to learn more about this land and about the connection we have to the land in general. So that's really cool. It
No,
was a
it
rabbit trail.
is. No, it absolutely is. And for the viewers in particular, the ones who do live in a cityscape, when I have my families come, across America to some of the locations that come
Hmm.
from major metropolitan areas, the first thing I ask them to do is just all of us remain silent for 30 seconds to
Mm,
allow them to
mhm,
hear the wind blowing through the trees, the birds, because that,
mhm,
like you said, that not everyone has the luxury of experiencing that peace.
mhm.
And
Yeah.
I think that's really special.
Mhm.
And you
And don't
know,
you feel like that helps them later too? Like they experience it in a way that somebody's
well,
intentionally gifting them that, and then maybe when they're on a walk in their city, they'll notice how even the trees in their city sway with the breeze, or even the songs, that are sung by the birds in their city are beautiful. It like kind of opens our hearts to seeing it everywhere, not just out, right?
no, oh,
Yeah.
absolutely, no, you're absolutely correct. I mean, basically, nature speaks to you, whether it be the trees or the birds, and
Hmm.
a lot of people, some people, I should say, are fearful of the forest just because of
Mm,
television and not really being comfortable there. But it that experience removes that, and gives them a
mm-hmm.
comfort level. And
Hmm.
I mean, we kind of heard a little bit about why the families, like Kings Mountain. So what
Hmm.
do you personally find very special about conservation burial? What draws you to the concept?
Oh man, everything. I love everything about it. Um, I I've always felt a connection with nature. Growing up, I got to spend a lot of time outside. Um, and I've always felt a strong connection to people. I love serving people, and I thought for a long time I had to choose. Like I thought like, oh, I've got to choose. Like I worked at Habitat for Humanity for a while before this job, and I thought I had to choose between like maybe I go into conservation work or I go into helping people. And like which road am I going to go on? And it felt, I mean, it was like a bolt of lightning in my body when I had the realization that I didn't have to choose. And that like conservation burial especially could bring that together in a way that I can serve families, I can meet people where they are, I can love on people who are grieving and be there for them and be a good presence for people in that hard time. And also I can, love and geek out about all the science, biology stuff I love and get excited about seeing an eastern box turtle or plant species that we have a mountain mint, narrow leaf mountain mint that's kind of a protected plant that we were given by a conservation organization to plant on the property and being able to do things like that where we can, just take part in both is really what has drawn me into it. And for the land itself, it's peaceful and I love the creek. Like I'm so drawn to water. And sometimes when I get to work, we have this bridge. It's like an old bridge that crosses over the creek. And a lot of times I'll arrive early and I get everything set up for a tour. I'll like go down to the bridge and just sit on it and just like sit and watch the water because it's like water calms me down in a way that almost nothing else can. Like it's just amazing that it empties my mind and I'm not thinking about all the things I need to do. I'm just connecting with and in the moment. So I would say those are the big things that bring me to it. Hmm.
No, and I can concur. I think you're absolutely right in all the things that you said, and that peace of mind. What's kind of interesting is that when you were describing working for Habitat and then coming to and trying to come up with the idea of what you wanted to do, like
Hmm.
everyone that I have encountered within our movement,
Hmm.
this chooses us. We don't choose it;
Hmm.
it chooses us. So it was kind of meant
Hmm.
to be. And I'm sure that you've had every service obviously is meaningful and they're all different. But is there any that was especially meaningful or impactful that you wouldn't mind sharing with the viewers?
Hmm. Yeah. Um, hmm. There was a service that the woman who um, they were committing, we do cremation burial as well. So this was a cremation burial, and but the reception afterwards, like they did the burial, and then after the family really brought together this beautiful expression of how much they learned from her. And so people like her children spoke, her grandchildren spoke, they sang songs, they shared poems and blessings and all of these things. And she had Irish ancestry, so they sang an Irish blessing, and they brought these really beautiful um we have a table outside and they brought all of these things that were about her. And we've had several people do this actually. It's always very touching. But in hers in particular, I was just thinking about um like this is what the main theme it felt like of her life was love. And I just thought, that's what I want people to think about me. Like, if like I want my children and my grandchildren to say at the end of the day, what did she love most? She just loved to love. Um, and that really impacted me because it made me go home and hug my kids and tell them 1,000 times I love you. Like that was, it was really special.
Well,
Yeah.
and it sounds like it was. And for the viewers, thank you for sharing because, as we all know in this business, tomorrow's never promised. So
Hmm.
cherish today and
Hmm.
live and always live the moment. That's what's
Hmm.
most important. So thank you very, that really resonates, I'm sure with many of the viewers. And this always brings me to my favorite part, as we close out our interview. Where do you hope to see Kings Mountain Preserve, let's say in the next 5 to 10 years? Do you have anything that you would like to see happen there?
Hmm. Yeah. I mean, what don't I want to? I mean, it's just like so many. Um, oh, I honestly, I think that we are growing in such a good way. Like the interest is there. People are coming out a lot and they tour it a lot. And um, but I think what I would love to see is more like like community support happening. Like I would love to have events where we have like workshops either at the preserve or we go as ambassadors to places that people like maybe they can't leave. Maybe it's a retirement community or something and we go speak there. But I'd love to do things like partner with grief counselors, partner with social workers. I'd love to do seminars on how to talk to children about death. I'd love to do seminars on how to make a grief wreath or forest bathing or all these different things for people to interact with each other and with nature because I think so much that we're relational beings, right? As human beings, like we are built for relationship and it I think that relationship is very all encompassing. There's a lot of things with that, but I see that like we could really through seminars like bring all those different relationships together. So I hope to do more of that, do more events, and honestly like help people who have loved ones buried at the preserve connect. We have two ladies who talk about they became really good friends because they have loved ones buried near each other and they were visiting at the same time, and that's so cool to me. And I would love to maybe have a friendship program or something where people we're gathering or we've talked about doing things like retreats or things at the preserve to just continue to have collaboration and love and like just a really beautiful expansion of community at the as the preserve can cultivate that. Yeah.
Well, that's a lovely vision, and there's no doubt in my mind that you'll achieve that. And anyone watching this, that might be able to offer some advice, help, or be part of that vision, I encourage you to visit or to reach out
Mm-hmm.
to Amanda because all the things that you mentioned are really big parts of the community building, and I think you can do all of that. And Amanda, it's been wonderful to meet you, to learn about Kings Mountain today. Thanks for joining us. And viewers, you can learn more by visiting kingsmountainpreserve.com. But it's been a pleasure.
Yeah. Thank you so much. This has been fun.
You're very welcome. So everybody, this is Ed Bixby from the Global Green Burial Alliance, and this was Spotlight Now. All right, just hold on a second, Amanda. Let me turn this off. You gotta love technology. I know, like how you touch your phone, you got to draw it up or whatever to get to
Oh
there.
yeah.
You got to hit it like right in the exact spot, or it just doesn't want to
Mhm.
work. Okay, there we go. So that was